Is it?
Agree to
Yeah,
the,
we are live now.
We are live.
yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
I've
I'm
agreed to the
just sort
recording.
of watching it all do things on my screen. So, oh, welcome
Yeah,
everybody.
that's true. It's yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, the joys of technology, and where there's a will, there's a way. And unfortunately, Nomsa is having technical issues, so hopefully she'll be able to join us. But we're here today, so welcome to today's episode of Ngosi Talk Shows. And with me here today is Kamal and Shireen. And the topic that we have today was one that came from Kamal.
Yeah.
And the title is Purpose Unveiled, How Understanding Yourself Shapes Your Life Path. So would you like to explain where that came from,
Oh
Kamal?
yeah, well, last week we were talking about the dips in our life and knowing our path, and we were talking a little bit about well-being and how to have a positive mindset, especially when we reach our goal, and then we should continue and leveling all of that up. And we had discussed a few times about life purpose, but then I figured maybe we should step back a little bit and explain the whole concept of um, the connection between the self-awareness that we are strongly uh, pounding into people's minds and uncovering your life purpose.
Mm.
Um, because we've mentioned it several times before. There's a huge percentage of the population, and I think the studies show now about I think it was between 80 to 90% of the population feel dissatisfied or unclear about their path in life, which means in easy terms they have no purpose. And um, I figured if we help our viewers and the rest of the audience understand the connection between self-awareness and purpose, it will give them a deeper understanding of what can be meaningful, how to build a meaningful, fulfilling life, and to have a strong foundation.
Mm,
Mm,
yeah, that dissatisfaction.
yeah.
You you say they have no purpose, and I think that's what people don't realize actually, that there is some purpose at a deeper level that they haven't yet unveiled or uncovered. And
Correct.
that's where their dissatisfaction is. It's not that I think it's the misconception is that they think they have no purpose
Right.
and they're going, what am I here for? What is going on? And it is that having that working on self-awareness and going
Mm,
deeper
Mm,
that allows them to find
yeah.
that
mm,
purpose and then find some satisfaction through that.
mm.
Yeah. So, Shireen, what are you seeing in this topic?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Hi, everyone. Um, yes, yeah, I was just thinking what Carmel was saying there, and exactly what you're saying there. People think that they don't have a purpose, right? They're upset, they haven't got, they're not satisfied with their life. So there's this thing, oh, well, I can't have a purpose.
Mm,
But I think that each of us have a purpose that's intrinsic within us, and it may not be something about what we need to do, but it's what we need to be. And I think there's something that we forget, and maybe that comes from the way we're kind of taught our religion, or we are taught the way of our belief structures.
mm,
But I truly believe that our primary purpose is to make sure that we can balance those negative thoughts that come, because the moment we're born, we now have the capacity to look at ourselves and criticize ourselves. That this is the number one purpose. We need to be able to look to balance this part of our left brain and our right brain. We have to be able to deal with the negative thoughts, and we have to move into thoughts that are far more fulfilling and whole and well-being. That's our primary purpose because we're born biologically with
mm,
this separation happening. And so, intrinsic within anything, if we start with that in the idea of just paying attention to that, we will then start to uncover what is my unique gift that I bring. It's very hard to discover our unique gift when we are being pounded by a voice
Mm,
that's giving us doubts, right? It's not helping us.
mm,
And we don't commit to things because, oh, we like this and we like that and we like this. And we find that the feelings then make us struggle. But if we have the capacity to be able to hold those thoughts and be able to then navigate them, then we will be able to do our purpose. We'll be able to fulfill it. And I do believe that's our primary number one purpose.
mm.
We have got to be able to manage ourselves so that we can then become productive for others in the world.
Purposeful.
Yeah, we can be purposeful. But until we've done that, until we've understood that real criteria, I mean, from little children
Yeah,
know what's
yeah,
right
yeah,
or wrong, right?
yeah, yeah.
They have the capacity to know when something is bad, they feel bad,
Mm,
right? So
mm,
we
mm, mm,
have this intrinsic knowledge that's there. So it really is about how do we manage that? How do we respond to that? So, and then only then do we really start to get a deeper sense of that purpose. It starts to uncover itself, I
yeah.
think.
And that's the whole key to it. It's this is
Mm.
why I brought in that concept of self-awareness. As you mentioned, it starts at a very young age. We're shaped by society. We're shaped by everything around us, our parents, our mentors, and everything shapes us. And it completely separates that innate purpose of combining those two together because they are separated, as you said, by birth and by society and by everything. And so there's a big difference between uh, understanding yourself from the perspective of your likes and dislikes,
Mm.
understanding your your like understanding your core values, understanding the core of yourself, understanding the strengths that you have. And I'm still not talking about that innate gift. I'm talking about your strengths, your capabilities, your values, and understanding, in essence, the why behind your choices. And that's where that self-awareness of that deep self-awareness comes into play, contra the, oh, I like this and I don't like that. This is the kind of person I am. And that plays a massive role into what you were talking about as well, which is, to put it in different terms, that understanding of self-awareness, that understanding of who you are is it's like a GPS.
Mm.
And you can't really like navigate or be able to go somewhere anymore now if you don't have your map, if you don't have your GPS, right? You can't chart that course, you can't dedicate yourself for it. So I think that self-awareness, the work within self-development, understanding what truly matters to you, the key foundations, your core values, if you will, understanding your strengths and your weaknesses.
Welcome to the future of television. Imagine your content.
Sorry.
What? I thought suddenly, okay,
Okay,
my computer was
there's a
ready
new
to
message
answer me
coming
I don't know
now.
what happened.
We are in the
I touched
future.
something and it went viral.
Great.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking strength and weaknesses, personal strength and weaknesses, and being able to leverage our weaknesses to become strengths, to become part of our
Yeah.
positive world. And then, of course, understanding the thoughts that we have, the beliefs and emotional influences um, that shape our decisions in life.
Mm.
Mm,
And so by doing that, we can um, we can allow ourselves to grow and figure out the paths that we want to take, which would be purposeful, which would contribute to a fulfilling and, I would say, in terms of mental capacity, a lavish life in your head.
Mm.
Everything would be and I'm talking about everything that you do would be fulfilling, even the most mundane of things, as long as you can connect it to that inner being, to that inner purpose, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And going back, I just sort of go back to what Shireen was saying about balancing, your positive and negative thoughts, and that in the beginning, it's that balance up the left and right brain. We don't have that. There is something called the corpus callosum, which joins the left and right brain, but it's only up in the higher cortex. Down below, in the other parts of the brain, there is no connection. And as we move, that corpus callosum is strengthened. And in the beginning, we're run by reflexes, and they're kept in the brainstem. So that's what runs us until they've done their job and then they're integrated, and then the sort of postural reflexes come in. And so something, for example, you have the Moro reflex, which is the fight or flight one. When that is fully integrated, it just becomes the startle reflex. So instead of going, oh God, what was that? And totally flipping out and having anger, rage, or whatever it is, and reacting, you just go, oh, what was that? Oh, yes, it's that. You're able to respond because it's just a startle reflex. So this is what happens. So you're moving out from brainstem up into that higher cortex. And the more you move, the more that the neural pathways are developed. So it's through movement. It's so important. And those neural pathways are developed as we grow from babies, and it's the movement that develops them. And that corpus callosum connects left and right brain so that you've got that communication, you get that balance. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. And this is what we need to look at when you do some personal development and you develop that part. And it is through, say, movement, but going on to what Kamal was saying, it's understanding your values. What is important to you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And yes, it is about working on your weaknesses. That's what I've realized, because the more I've worked on things that are my weaker element, which for me was my auditory sense, my visual and kinesthetic senses have just literally gone, it isn't at the detriment of them. It's helped them to expand. So this sort of, where you're told, oh, play to your strengths, keep working on your strengths. If you work on your weaknesses, your strengths actually strengthen. So yeah, it's exactly what you were saying. And this purpose then, becomes your GPS, your compass. It helps you to direct you, to inform your actions as to what you need to do. And it is about who you're being. As Shireen was saying, it's not about what you're doing, it's about who you're being. And the actor who said something about figuring out paths, Kamal. For me, I just went, actually, the more you uncover your purpose, the path unfolds. There is no figuring out to do.
There is no figuring out. You're correct. What I meant by
Yes.
figuring out is figuring out inside of you where the paths are laying, as in understanding them more than figuring out what I'm going to do or making a choice in that.
Yeah. So again, beautiful languaging.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
this is we sort of language is key to how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to others, and how we interpret what others are saying. Because we all have our own way of interpreting words and using words. And it can be the same language, it's English, but there are so many different versions in respect of different groups that you're in, and how they use the English language and how they put it together and which certain words they use. And they can say the same thing as another group that but in a different way. And this is what I've discovered. I've been in so many different groups over the years and gone, but you're saying the same as that group, but in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's been when I first got into it, it's like, oh, for God's sake! But now I'm quite enjoying the adventure because it means that I can communicate. I understand what's being said to me, and I can communicate using their words because their words are familiar to me now. Whereas in the beginning, it's like, what are you saying? And attempting to put it in your own words. I used to do that. And I could see their eyes would glaze over and they'd drift away. And I go, okay, yeah, that didn't make sense to them. So again, it's understanding how you're communicating to yourself and then how others are communicating to you and how you can communicate with each other is very key in all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting words. Backwards a sword.
Gosh.
So if you think of it like that, words can be like swords, right? It can cut through things, or it can be the other way around of creating worlds. So it's just really about paying exquisite attention to the languaging of how you're speaking to yourself. And I think, one of the things in self-awareness is we have to develop the language of our body in some way. A lot of people that have not really experienced connecting to their body don't know the difference, say, in different kinds of emotions, right? If you don't have a sense, or someone doesn't say, actually, no, I'm not feeling this, I'm actually feeling this. And they're taking the time to really find the right word of what it means for them. Their landscape, their clarity gets much, much stronger because they now can differentiate between these tiny, tiny emotions. And the self-awareness part is when we know ourselves like that, we can say, oh, this is this feeling, this is this feeling, this is this feeling. But in actual fact, most of us, if we have an experience that's unhelpful, we will have six or not quite, maybe six, sometimes six, but more five of Ekman's primary emotions, which is sad, mad, scared, glad, disgust, and surprise, or startle, which you were talking about. If you ask the question to someone and you say, well, what were you sad about? From this experience, what are you sad about? What are you glad about? What are you scared about? What are you angry about? Most grief and stuff that I do a lot of work with grief is always anger somewhere there. There's always that deep sadness. There's also scared about facing a life that's in the future. There are so many things that we will experience. But if you can get people to even just do that, it's a start to self-awareness. It's a start to recognizing, hey, in that one moment, I've got all these emotions running, right? Now let's move that further. What other emotions are running that we now have a cognitive appraisal about? So disgust tags into we often think of when people say, I'm disgusted, what do they feel? They feel a very gastric thing. Our primary disgust is actually to prevent us eating poisoned foods, right? But as we socialized, we got disgust actually became a cognitive one as well. So at a different level. So disgust at a physical is food. The other one is a judgment about someone or something. So I think when we get to understand this and have that clarity, I think that then gives us a depth of understanding and wisdom that starts to come. And as you said, when we start to become more aware of ourselves, what happens is we start to pretty much become more energetic. I know it sounds really bizarre, but because now we're starting to release, aren't we? We're starting to release energy. And that then allows those other connections and other pathways to start to unfold.
That's absolutely true. And it's I mean, it has been studied. It has been done with research, and I think I can't remember her name now, but there was a research done on or study done on people with who are truly self-aware, and we're talking about self-awareness about their feelings, emotions, and all of that, what we're just talking about now. And um, the results came that about only 10 to 15% of the people who are truly self-aware, right? And but then within those 10 to 15%, they managed to report or to prove basically that they had higher job satisfaction, they had stronger relationships, family, friends all over, and they had better decision-making strategies. So understanding your emotions, understanding where you're coming from, understanding that part of that self-awareness is actually the key to going further in life and unlocking more parts of you that have been hidden. I mean, you can look at the study of, or you basically parts of you that are hidden. When I'm talking parts, I'm thinking of Carl Jung and shadow work, right? Or shadow self. So parts of us that we deny, parts of us that we um, suppress, parts of us that want to do other things, right? And combining them together is part of that self-awareness. That is much deeper self-awareness. Now we're talking about the simple ones, which are your emotions. And there's a very famous and very interesting quote that Viktor Frankl uh, said. And if we pay attention, and that's what we're talking about here, that's the part of understanding and being able to respond appropriately. Between stimulus and response lies a space. In that space lies our freedom and power to choose a response. In our response lies our growth and our happiness. So things that happen to us, like you were talking about, Carol Ann, the flight or fright, and then it becomes a startled. I would call it just a notice of an event happening. And if you go through that notice of an event and then you can manage your emotions, you can go through where do I want to go in that situation? How can I handle that? Of course, all of that happens in like microseconds, even, right? But that time that we allow ourselves to understand our emotions, understand situations, and understand what we want to do, that is the greatest power that we can have. And through that, we can make better decisions, obviously. And once we've reached that stage, everything that we want to do can be done by simply knowing that it is possible, not just a sense of half-cooked belief, I'm going to call it. There becomes a deeper belief in it. It becomes almost as having faith in yourself, that because you can manage your emotions, because you understand where they're coming from, because you understand where you want to go in life,
Yeah.
what your parts want to tell you, you have control of the decisions that you will make with whatever comes into your life. And I think that is a powerful aspect of self-awareness.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, as you're saying, self-awareness, I think when you say it's faith, it's trust. That's when we can truly trust ourselves.
Ourselves, exactly.
No matter what, that we have that. And I think that's the big goal. And it can be so difficult to sit in that trust when you've got all these thoughts going around and you haven't taken time to develop that self-awareness. Yeah.
And
That's
yeah, and that's lovely because you have all those thoughts, and it's being able to be with all those thoughts and make sense of them, but also notice how they're making you feel. And you say emotions are key, because otherwise you're just all over the place. If you can actually define, as you say, Shireen, each emotion. And it wasn't until I did Touch for Health, and I also did the journey work, which there's an emotional drop through, did I start to be able to refine the difference between anger and rage. I had never distinguished between the two before. And it was like, oh, and I was able to start naming different emotions, which I wasn't able to do before. And that really opened up my world considerably. And I was actually able to know what I was feeling, give it a word and express it. And even if others attempted to say, well, no, don't you mean this? I go, no, this is my word for it.
Mm.
And again, it's other people's interpretation. But if you can put your word to it, it makes it really powerful because it helps you to understand it. But there are refinements. And I loved what you were saying. Whose list was it? You said I sort of, when you went sad, glad, scared, there was a
Oh,
list.
right. Well,
Is
it's
it someone's list you said? Or
yeah. Well, no, it's the six basic emotions of Ekman, and then
six basic emotions of who?
of Ekman.
Ek,
Ekman.
Ekman. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
got it.
I will double check that. May have got
Yeah,
the
because
name.
it's sort of, I've not heard it in those terms, but it's like, I just wanted to get that
He
clear for our
went and
listeners because it sort of, it slipped past me, and I think maybe it slipped past them because I think this is important. You got those six basic emotions. If you can identify the difference between, because sometimes, angry, scared,
yeah, it's
sad, they
Paul
get rolled
Ekman.
up.
Yeah,
Sorry, what did you say?
it's Paul Ekman.
Ah, okay.
And basically he studied people from all over the world,
Mm,
and he came up with the idea that he could see these six emotions across all, and these six emotions are prevalent in all animals,
right.
particularly primates, right?
Yeah.
And particularly you see all these emotions. So he said
Mm,
there's these basic emotions which are just emotions, just a feeling without any true cognitive awareness. Then you come into cognitive awareness. So
ah,
yeah,
okay.
it's quite an interesting
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's having that cognitive awareness, which
mm,
is part of the self-awareness that we're talking about, isn't it?
yeah,
That then helps
exactly.
you to decide or find
Mm,
your purpose because it's like, well, what is it that you're drawn to?
yeah.
What really makes you happy, or what is it that's making you sad? And what's that driving force in you, and where does that come from? So it's been able to then, as you uncover your purpose, you get to that deeper why. What is it that's driving it? And very often it is very much emotional driver, but you can have that cognitive
Mm,
part of understanding it all. Um, and yet allows for that depth of wisdom to come
mm,
out. What was I? Yeah, you said, Kamal, you said startle, reflex, notice. It's it is actually because you can get startled,
mm,
Oh yeah.
and it is then you're dropping into just noticing.
mm,
So that
That's it.
the reaction there's like a oh, but when the actual Moro reflex is on, that oh becomes completely out of all proportions,
The
as
start, you
opposed
see, we're going now into the little bit of the semantics and the communication
yes.
that we were talking about. Now, for you, it's like, oh, for me, Aristotle is that, oh, okay. That's why I'm talking about it as a notice because it has become for me a notice, and it has been like that for a very long
mm,
time. Like, even when I think I was 13 or 14, and there was a big earthquake. I was 15. Big earthquake in Egypt. We were living there back then. And I was having breakfast, eating my breakfast. Then I saw the hanging chandelier moving a little bit like this. Huh. And then I continued eating, and things are shaking. Okay. And that has constantly been my reaction of anything that happens. How or what do I want to do this year? My mom, of course, coming out, come on, kids, under the door frame, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm having breakfast, but it's an earthquake. Yeah, yeah, nothing's gonna happen, and I'm eating my breakfast. The typical teenager, right? Anyway, we move on a few 10 years later, a little bit more, and we're doing drills on planes for safety drills because I was a cabin crew. and they're doing and this is like serious. We're in a big simulator in the pool and emergency rafts, and like they simulate fire and all of that. And you have everybody reacting as you're saying. They are startled once they're doing things. They get startled. I only notice things because I go into a mode of, what am I going to do with this? And back then, I still didn't understand myself quite well. Like I was aware of certain things, but not completely self-aware. It took me another 5, 6 years to start being, actually, no, it took me another 10 years to start being so really self-aware. And my reaction was always, right, fire, you're panicking, go do this. You can't control, go do that. Bring me this, bring me that. And I take control of the situation because I can manage it. Now we move forward. Why do I react like this? I understood. I go into, what can I control? What can I manage? Is this the situation where I have to run? Is it a situation where people are in danger? What kind of situation is it? Because I used to have that hero complex. I can save people. I can help people. And so it became a habit for me. And by becoming a habit, now that I understand what's happening to me, is that, okay, this is the time for me to figure out and make the decision that I consider to be the right one. So it's given me that space to respond in the, I'm not going to say correct way, but in the way that I feel is best for the situation, for myself. And now this has happened lately with any emotional situation, whether it's anger. Okay, am I going to get angry? How angry am I going to get? What is the level that I will go to? Do I just need to stare to my children? Or do I need to growl a little bit and stare?
Mm. Yeah.
At the very start of that self-awareness, I used to, when I would get really upset, I would yell. And then I would step back after maybe 10 seconds and I would say, I'm sorry I yelled. And I explained the situation. I was upset. And da 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 da. Because I'm still not angry. So it's not, no, I'm not angry. I'm upset. There's a big difference. So you start, and we've spoken about this, you start putting like a gauge for all of your emotions. Sadness, it becomes, there's a gauge where there is, I don't know the definitions. My brain just stuck with sad now because it doesn't want to work. There is like level 1 sad, level 2, level 3, level 4, and you have different words that express sadness. Like there are different words that express how angry you are. Like there are different words that will express a certain level of love or attachment to a person or disgust, right? And you start putting names to these feelings that you've never had before. And so, yes, we still have those 6 basic ones, but they expand. And by expanding, you allow yourself so much more feelings, so much more of your senses come into play. And that's where we start understanding, okay, what do I enjoy in life? What part of doing this brings me satisfaction or dissatisfaction? How can I continuously work on, for instance, my values? Okay, so what do I respect, or who's a person that I respect? What are the values that they have that I want to simulate or emulate, not simulate, emulate. And you start looking back at moments in your life. This happened. What did this teach me? Did I enjoy it? What part of it did I enjoy? What part of this enjoyment is something that I get as a word that describes something I want to feel later on? Is it part of my core values? In this event, I had a trigger. What was the trigger? What word defines this trigger? Let's say I have been cheated. Cheated? What is the opposite? Honesty? Is it? Do I respect honesty? And then you start looking into, okay, different events. How do you respect honesty? Are you always honest? Are you 80%, 90%? Maybe that is a core value. Maybe it isn't. That retrospect of the events in your life, especially if you can do that far back, brings you so much more insight onto your values. And then you put your values in different aspects. You put them, okay, what do I value in travel? What do I value with my family? What do I value with work? What kind of values do I want to implement in um, the people around me? How do I want to implement it? And bit by bit, you start aligning those values. And that's how that self-awareness starts to really, really kick in, with that being the foundation to your uncovering your life purpose. Because you start understanding, okay, this is what I value, this is what I want to implement in this part of my life, in this part of my life, and the following. And slowly, slowly shaping it the way you want to. Yeah, my rambling ended now.
Yeah, because it's that and covering it, you start becoming aware of, well, what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Yes.
It's not a case of, and sinking into an emotional dip.
Yeah.
It's being able to, okay, be in that emotion and go, okay, this isn't actually working for me, and start to verbalize it and give language to it. And that is where the power is. And it's, well, what is it about this situation or that person that is causing me to behave in this way? And it could be something from your past. It could be just something just emotional that is there in the moment, but you can actually discover what is the driver that has you behave or react in that way. And, you know, for me, what I'm hearing with you, Kamal, it's great. It's like, it's as if that moral reflex has already been integrated for you, because for a lot of people, that feeling that emotion and seeing something like that emotion, it pulls them down into the reptilian brain, and the reflex actually has control over you. You don't actually have control over the reflexes.
Correct. Yeah.
But it's been having those fully integrated, which a lot of people don't have. So it's being able to recognize, are you reacting inappropriately and really exploding? Become aware of that and go, okay, well, what are the triggers? And this again is where the self-awareness can come in, and monitoring it. And it's like, okay, so how can I integrate this reflex or manage this reaction? Because the reflex, as I said, that does need to be fully integrated for you to then be able to have that startle reflex, and even less than that, just that noticing it, just so there's no reaction, because you feel you're having some emotion. Is like, oh, but you don't get pulled down into the brainstem with that total irrational behavior. You can remain up in the neocortex, up here in the higher cortex, where you've got clear, rational thought. And that's what you were having, Kamal.
I'm
Clear,
not saying
rational thought.
when I was 15 it always happened. It happened in certain situations.
Yeah.
In like some other situation I can remember. Like I'm a teenager. Like what rational answer would I have?
Yeah. But this is what I'm saying. This is the difference. And it's being
Yeah.
able to recognize when that happens, you know, and the fact that you can have clear, rational thought. You can just notice it and go, oh, well, okay, that's happening, and carry on. Or because you can immediately assess if there's a danger or not.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you can't assess if there's no danger. You automatically think, God, there's danger, boom, bang, and you're gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's being able to assess the situation in that moment. And again, that's again what helps you with your finding your purpose. Chanel, I say Chanel, that's my granddaughter say Shireen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at how we're going back around to that moral reflex, right?
Yeah.
And the moral reflex is to sound, right? We can't not hear sound.
Sound and sight.
Yeah,
It's
and
something that's
when we were a baby
yeah.
at 3, we don't have sight yet.
Mm.
So we don't have clear sight. So it takes about 3 months for us to be able to use our direct focals well enough. But we certainly have got sound because I've done a lot of them.
Yeah.
Or sit there with a baby, and I used to do that
Yeah.
when I was doing APGAR testing. So I know that that's there, but so that is way under. It's it's under 2 nanoseconds. So we know that we're gonna experience that. And as you say, it's really about when our body is primed, it means the energy is very charged, and so when we hear it, we do an extra bump, right? So this is where we're talking about in the sense of changing stuff. Our adrenaline is kicking in straight away. Our adrenals kick in straight away. And we get that rush, that immediate rush that starts to happen. And I think what I'm hearing from Carmel is that as he got older, he was able to, he didn't experience the rush, right? So he didn't experience the rush. So therefore, he didn't go into that cycle. He was able to hold the rush feeling enough that he could go, what's in my control? What can I do? Do I have to do anything? Everybody's being an idiot over there going and doing that. I'm having my breakfast, right? Now, we could take that as a spoilt boy. I don't know. I have no idea, but I think that if you've never been really properly traumatized or you've been lovingly brought up, I think that the chances are that you won't experience that rush as fast. And so you would probably more likely to have developed or started developing those neural connections where you would actually be able to hold and suspend time. That's what I'm kind of thinking. But I'm really thinking in the sense of what started to run for me, Carol Ann, was the word charge. Like when we talk about, when we do it, when we're experiencing that startle, it's like we get charged all of a sudden.
Yeah.
What I have noticed a little bit like with Carmel and I guess also you, is when we are less reactive, right? The charge isn't there. And when we've done some inner work, we release the charge so that actually we don't get that startle. The charge is not so high anymore. It's actually now at a low threshold rather than a high threshold. And so we don't react. We're kind of, oh, right. Okay, I've got the startle. I'm going to turn to the sound. I'm going to turn to a strange visual thing, which is, but I'm not going to feel that comes up, right? So what you do is you've already managed to control that automatically now, rather than having to train yourself to do it. You've already done it because the act of self-development helps strengthen that neural connection so that the startle response becomes a noticing, a witnessing, rather than let's run like hell kind of response. And I mean, it's interesting, Kamal, that you've said that, because actually I used to have such a spider phobia that the smallest, tiniest little spider, if I saw it in the corner of the room, I would not be in that room. And I was so surprised because I had done some work. It's a bit of a fast phobia, but some EMDR and all sorts of stuff. And what happened was, and then of course I was very empathic to my spider. So that was an interesting thing. But when I was in Australia, there was an incredible poisonous spider just right next to me. And you know what? I didn't move. I looked at it and said, "You're not going to come into my hair. You're fine." And I turned around and I was in bed and I didn't do anything. And I could not believe I felt no fear. So I think there's something about that self-awareness which really builds those neural connections that help us move into that witnessing, help us move into that sense of agency, and that sense of, okay, what's the purpose here, right? So that in every given moment, we can be aware of a purpose. That may not be the life goal purpose that we've been thinking of, but it's all accumulative. Everything that we do is in some way working towards that wider, bigger purpose. We just don't necessarily make the connection. But if we do take that time to go, okay, why am I doing this meditation today? I'm doing this meditation because of this, right? What does it give me? What will it give me tomorrow? What will it give me the next day? Sometimes we have to get to a level of self-awareness before a lot of the things that we didn't really hear, we start to hear. And that's been really for me this week, is really just kind of noticing all of a sudden all these truths that I had, I knew, but I didn't feel them. And then now moving into almost like every cell within my body. So I think there's something about, that sense of what happens when we have it is that it increases faith because every cell is connected.
Yeah.
And it almost is that it goes into every cell, that knowledge, that wisdom, and then that's what I think is the unfolding and the uncovering, right?
And it makes sense, right? And then it makes sense when it comes to that growth, because you are experiencing the growth that you want to. Let's talk about the phobia. A lot of people don't want to experience it, and they say like, nope, I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going to even try and do anything against that phobia. Just let it be there. That's it. I'm done. What can I control? This is what I can control. I'll do all this. And that's the difference between the two people, right? It's the mindset, the growth pattern that you want to go on, or the people that work on themselves with self-development, with self-awareness, and those that believe that they're fine as they are. They don't need to change. They're smart enough, and things are the way they are because they are the way they are. Um, and that's the other part. Like we're talking about three different parts here. If people haven't noticed, that's the last part of what we're talking about, is that having that sense to accept growth as part of your everyday life, because that's how we grow, by learning about ourselves, by understanding where we're going, by knowing our core values, by wanting to get rid of certain phobias, by allowing ourselves to not be charged by certain situations. And so there's there is the factor of wanting to be better. And as you were mentioning it now at the end, Shireen, is that you start believing, not just knowing, but knowing and believing and having faith and trusting yourself. And that's an extremely strong word, is trusting in yourself to be able to move forward, to be able to know that since you exist, there is purpose for your existence. Whether it's a deep, deep, deep purpose to save the world, between quotation, or a deeper person to saving one person or helping one person. It doesn't matter. Your existence serves a purpose, not necessarily something that you need to know about, but it does serve. And these steps of growth, of understanding, that is part of our innate purpose, as Shireen was mentioning in the beginning. It is our, I would call it even, okay, so when I was 18, I think I wrote like an essay for myself about.
Ooh,
Ooh, what
almost
happened?
disappeared. That must have been a big moment.
Yeah,
A release of energy.
that was energetically charged there.
I mean, he's
Weird.
still there. It was like, oh, everything changed, and just his face.
And this is it, isn't it? The charge can just suddenly,
I know.
it
He's
has,
getting very
it's
serious
powerful.
there.
And people underestimate the power of the charge that we've been talking about,
Well, we'll wait for him to decharge, the
Yeah,
static to go,
yeah,
and he'll come back in.
exactly. But I love what you were saying about the existence. Your existence serves a purpose. Having that realization
Mm,
helps you to feel more grounded and sort of
mm,
part of what's happening. Okay, so now he's gone, he'll be back.
yeah.
But accepting growth, because actually your purpose evolves as you grow. So it's again,
Mm,
self-awareness is really important in this, because noticing that you've changed or things have evolved for you
mm,
can dive back in again. Well, what's your purpose? And for me, I realized today I was doing something, sort of just going through my business and vision, mission, values again, just looking at that and realized that actually, although my vision's still the same, my mission statement, I've reworded it and it just really feels, oh, that feels much more tighter, but more, I feel much more solid with it. I don't even know if that's the right word. There's something quite in my core, like, yes, this is more it. Even though I used to feel the other one, it just didn't somehow grab me the same way that when I wrote this morning, it's like, oh, that's it. And I feel more excited about it. So again, it's allowing yourself to revisit, look at it and grow and evolve. Things do evolve. We very much hold on to, don't we? We don't like change.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, change is the only constant.
And if you don't change, it will change for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That is something that was really catching up for me. I was watching, I do quite like to watch foreign films. And one of the films that I was watching, there was a little quote that came, which was the check always comes. And that is such a profound thing, because no matter what we're doing, there is always going to be a consequence. The check will come. If we keep smoking, the check will come. They come down 20 years down the line, but it will come. There's a disconnect. People think that smoking and it doesn't cause, for a long time, they didn't think it caused cancer or any other thing. But the check comes, right? If you keep eating rubbish food, the check comes. And it's really just understanding if we choose not to do certain behaviors or certain meditation type things to build our mental muscle, the check comes. We suffer because we don't do what we need to do. And this was something that really landed for me. It was, oh, why did I have to really hear that now? Yeah, bad, but oh. And it was so important because it kind of really, I thought, is this the level we've got to feel it before we intrinsically change, where things are just changing in and of themselves, rather than us having to keep trying to go against the flow. But actually, this is when we change in this level, it becomes self-generating and outward generating, isn't it? So that's when the purpose, as we said, the purpose unfolds. Yes, your charge. You were so charged up. What happened?
You're muted.
The electricity cut off, so I had to go on my phone and look at that wonderful view that I have here.
Beautiful.
Wow. Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right, so I had to go outside and freeze my butt a bit. But it's nice weather. It's not that cold. It's all right.
Yeah. So it's getting outside and realizing the view that you have, because sometimes we're so contained inside, we don't realize what actually is out there. And this is, I think, the same with our purpose. If we don't go inside ourselves and do all that self-awareness, our purpose doesn't unfold. And
exactly. It doesn't, I mean, this is like consider it a flower blossoming, right? If you don't give that flower nutrients, if you don't give it water, if you don't take care of it, cut off the weeds, it won't blossom, it will wither and it will die. And that's what we were saying at the start. The majority of people, they just live their life, and some of them blossom and they are a pretty flower, but they wither very soon. And others, you can see the same flower, same breed, same things, but you give it nutrients, you give it love, you give it attention, it blossoms in a completely different way. And we are like that as human beings. That self-awareness within us is this is the nutrient for our life to expand, to change. I think I haven't done the complete study, but you could see it in people's faces. Look, I've been looking at people since I was a kid, right? The majority of people, if you look at just their mouth, the majority of people's mouths are like this when they grow older. They don't have a straight or an up natural mouth.
Mm.
And I believe the reason being is that whether they have lived most of their life, and I'm talking about adulthood around like maybe mid 30s, you could start seeing it.
Yeah, that.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Well, I can see that we're at 10 past already,
Yes,
so we're
yeah.
probably going to
So,
need to sum up and finish.
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry, it was there.
Got
I
to
was,
finish your mouth story.
yeah. I was saying that like at that age, you will see if people have not worked with themselves, they haven't worked into their self-development, they haven't worked to understand their core values and live lives that align to their core values, you will find a sort of, and I'm not going to go, it's not sadness, but a sort of dissatisfaction in their facial features. Contrary to those that live according to their core values, you will find them more more pleasant to look at, more smiley, more they have a different energy within them. So
We're just aware of time, Kamal. So do you want to
yeah,
wrap
yeah,
up
sorry.
and
So
just sort of
I'm
wrap that
I'm
up and just sort
basically
of that's okay. No, but we've got
I'm
to a point, I
basically
think,
done with what
where
I wanted to say. That's all.
yeah, what would you
Yeah.
like to leave our listeners with or our viewers with?
Today it's very simple. Find a list, and there are many of them online. Find lists of 100 words of your of core values. Pick out 8 of those 100 words. Decide which of those are really hit home for you. Circle them. Make sure that you feel them and see if you can apply them in every part of your life. That is the first thing that I want to leave you with. The second part is continuously work on your self development, continuously work on being aware of your emotions and how you want to react to the world, because it is how you view yourself, how you manage your emotions that actually sets the stage for how you will experience the world. And those are my words for today.
Thank you. Shireen, what would you like to
Good words.
leave our listeners with? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think what I have experienced and what I believe to be true is that the deeper your self-awareness is, the more you strengthen the connections within your brain and also the connections with your body, because the somatic connections from the brain to the body automatically, when we start to pay more attention to our emotions, are affected that way. So the more we pay attention in this particular directed way, the easier it becomes to live your purpose. It's easier to be able to do things and be self-motivating, because actually it is that allows it to generate it for itself.
Yeah.
So I think that this is the key to ease, living with ease and grace, right? Make sure that you are really as self-aware as you can be, because that self-awareness unfolds everything.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. And what I'd like to leave our listeners with is the fact that actually by living your purpose, having that self-awareness and being able to live your purpose has a ripple effect. It can actually knock on to your family, your friends, the company, wherever you're working or any groups that you're with, because who you're being and in living your purpose this way impacts them and actually inspires them and gives them permission to grow as well. So it isn't just about yourself. It is just, everyone else that you're impacting with it as well. And this is what enables the world to become a better place, by you working on yourself. And so I'd just like to leave you with this one quote by Brené Brown. Self-awareness doesn't just help you know your purpose. It helps you live it authentically every day. So thank you for
Nice
listening.
one.
Yeah. And we're here Monday to Friday, 1 o'clock. And, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and look forward to being here. I'm here next Tuesday, Shireen and Kamal, hopefully as well. Nomsa will be back. She'll get her internet or whatever it is that's glitching for her at the moment. She'll get it sorted. But there'll be somebody here tomorrow. The show always
Will
goes
go
on.
on.
The show always
The
goes
show
on.
will go on,
Yes. So, okay, everyone
All right
take
then.
care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.